The 2026 World Cup will be decided by goals, tactics, pressure, and moments of individual quality. That part never changes. But this time, there is another force sitting quietly behind the football: the schedule. Not just who plays who, but where they play, when they play, how far they travel, how much rest they get, what conditions they face, and how quickly they have to recover before the next match arrives. In a tournament spread across Canada, Mexico, and the United States, with 48 teams, 104 matches, 12 groups of 4, and a round of 32, the calendar is not just a list of fixtures. It is part of the competition. That is why the 2026 schedule could decide the tournament. Not in a simple way. No team will lift the trophy only because it had a convenient flight or an extra day between matches. Talent still matters. Coaching still matters. But when the margins between elite teams are already narrow, the structure around those teams can become decisive. A long travel week can make a pressing team slower. A short rest window can make rotation unavoidable. A hot afternoon can punish a side that wants to play at full speed. A knockout path can turn one extra-time match into a problem that follows a team into the next round. The schedule will not appear on the scoreboard, but it may be written into the legs of the players. The first thing to understand is scale. FIFA's confirmed 2026 format creates the biggest men's World Cup ever, 48 teams and 104 matches. The tournament is hosted across 3 countries and 16 host city areas. That is not a normal tournament footprint. It is a continent-sized event. A team's World Cup will not only be a football journey, it will be a travel plan, a recovery plan, a climate plan, and a squad management plan. In a compact tournament, the schedule still matters, but the movement is usually more contained. In 2026, the distances can become part of the story. A team may move from one region to another, adjust to a different time zone, train in a different environment, and then play a match that decides whether it stays alive. Supporters will see the fixture on screen as a date and a venue. Inside the team hotel, it will look more complicated. Transport, sleep timing, medical treatment, nutrition, training load, tactical meetings, media obligations, and the emotional reset after the last result. That is the hidden schedule. The public schedule tells you the kickoff. The real schedule tells you when the players sleep, when they eat, when they fly, when they recover, when they can train properly, and when the manager has enough time to fix what went wrong in the last match. That difference matters because tournament football is not played by fresh squads inside a neutral laboratory. It is played by human bodies coming out of long club seasons. It is played by teams that need rhythm, repetition, and recovery. The calendar can either support that process or slowly make it harder. The second factor is rest. Rest days can become as valuable as tactical ideas. If 2 teams are close in quality, an extra day can change the level of intensity a coach is willing to demand. It can affect whether a player with a tight hamstring starts or sits. It can affect whether a fullback can repeat high-speed runs, whether a midfielder can press for 90 minutes, whether a center back reacts half a second faster to a ball in behind, and whether a substitute is genuinely fresh or just less exhausted than everyone else. This does not mean every team with more rest automatically wins. Football is not that neat. But rest changes the probabilities. In a knockout game, probabilities matter. A team that has played extra time, traveled, and then had a short turnaround may still have more famous players than its opponent. But if those players cannot press with the same sharpness, cannot recover defensive shape as quickly, or cannot turn possession into pressure, the name on the shirt starts to matter less. The schedule can take a favorite and make it play like a tired version of itself. The third factor is travel rhythm. Travel is not just distance, it is disruption. A flight can be comfortable and still break routine. A new city can mean a different training base, different weather, different crowd energy, and a different stadium feel. Teams spend years building habits. Tournament schedules interrupt habits. The best teams are not only the ones with the best players, they are the ones that can protect their habits when the tournament keeps moving. That is why the group stage draw and venue allocation will matter so much. A A side that can settle into a region may build rhythm. A side that has to move more aggressively may spend more of the tournament managing logistics. The difference may not be dramatic after one match. It may become visible by the third group game, or in the first knockout round, when the legs are heavier and the tactical margin is smaller. The fourth factor is climate and conditions. A three-country World Cup does not give every team the same physical environment. Different cities can bring different temperatures, humidity levels, altitude effects, and playing conditions. A match in one venue may feel completely different from a match in another. Teams that want to play with constant pressure may have to manage their energy differently. Teams that rely on quick transitions may need freshness to make those runs. Teams that defend deep may benefit if the match slows down. Conditions do not decide matches by themselves, but they shape the match that is possible. This is where schedule and tactics meet. A coach may have a preferred style, but a tournament schedule can force adaptation. If the rest window is short, the press may be less aggressive. If the travel is heavy, rotation may come earlier. If the weather is punishing, possession may become a way to rest with the ball. If the opponent has had a cleaner week, the game plan may become more cautious. The schedule does not replace tactics. It changes the tactical menu. The fifth factor is the expanded format. The 2026 tournament does not simply add more teams. It adds more stages of survival. The top 2 teams in each group advance, along with the 8 best third-place teams, creating a round of 32. That means more teams stay alive, and more teams enter knockout football with different levels of fatigue, momentum, and pressure. A team that finishes first may not always receive a comfortable route. A team that survives in third place may become dangerous because it has already escaped the edge. For the schedule, this matters because every group stage decision has a physical cost. Does a manager rotate in the third match if qualification is nearly secure? Does a team chase first place and risk its key players? Does it protect yellow card risks? Does it accept a draw if the wider third-place table makes that enough? These are tactical questions, but they are also schedule questions. The calendar gives managers a limited amount of recovery. Every choice spends some of it. The sixth factor is the final group game. In a 12-group format with third-place qualification, the last round can become a web of incentives. Teams may be watching not only their own match, but the wider tournament picture. A late goal in one group can change what another team needs. A side may think it is safe, then suddenly need more. Another may discover that a conservative result is enough. That pressure affects how teams use energy. A team that needs one more goal may push harder than planned. A team that suddenly knows it is through may slow the match down. A team chasing goal difference may keep attacking even when the match is already won. Those decisions can affect the next round. A player who spends the final 20 minutes making repeated sprints to chase a better position in the bracket may feel that effort 3 or 4 days later. The schedule makes one match bleed into the next. The seventh factor is extra time. The knockout rounds are where schedule stress becomes visible. 30 extra minutes is not just 30 extra minutes. It is 30 minutes of sprinting, tackling, jumping, stretching, and emotional strain after a match that was already tense. If that team then travels, recovers, and plays again quickly, extra time can become a hidden tax on the next fixture. That is why the path matters. Two teams may reach the same quarterfinal with very different bodies. One may have won cleanly in 90 minutes and stayed in rhythm. The other may have survived extra time, penalties, and a flight. On paper, both are quarterfinalists. In reality, they may not be starting from the same place. The schedule carries the history of the route into the next match. The eighth factor is squad depth. The 2026 schedule rewards teams that can use more than 11 players without losing identity. A manager who trusts only a small core may get through the first week, but the tournament can slowly expose that dependence. Rotation is not just about resting stars, it is about keeping the whole system alive. If the second-choice fullback changes the build-up, if the backup midfielder cannot handle pressure, if the substitute forward cannot press, then every rest decision becomes risky. The winner may need a squad that can change without collapsing. It may need a bench that can start matches, not just finish them. It may need center backs who can handle different types of strikers, midfielders who can play at different tempos, and forwards who can win ugly matches when the usual rhythm is gone. The schedule turns depth from a luxury into a survival tool. The ninth factor is time zones and body clocks. Supporters usually experience the World Cup through kickoff times. Players experience it through sleep cycles and recovery windows. Moving across time zones can alter preparation, even when the travel is managed professionally. Elite teams have experts for this, but expertise does not remove the challenge. It simply gives teams a better chance of handling it. A small disruption may not decide a match on its own, but if it combines with heat, travel, short rest, a physical opponent, and a player carrying fatigue from the club season, it becomes part of a larger picture. Tournament failure often looks like one mistake: a late runner not tracked, a second ball not won, a pass played too slowly, a defender a step behind. Sometimes that mistake comes from tactics. Sometimes it comes from tiredness. The schedule can make tiredness more likely. The 10th factor is the host effect. Playing in North America will create different crowd dynamics in different cities. Some teams will feel close to home. Some will travel with huge support. Some will play in stadiums where the atmosphere feels hostile or unfamiliar. The schedule decides when and where those atmospheres arrive. A difficult away-feeling game after a short turnaround is different from the same opponent after a long rest. A host or near-host crowd can add emotional pressure at exactly the moment legs are already heavy. Again, this is not a guarantee. Great teams win in difficult environments, but great teams also prepare for environments. The 2026 schedule makes environment part of the route. It is not just the opponent. It is the place, the time, the crowd, the travel, and the recovery. The 11th factor is media and attention. The bigger the tournament, the louder the noise. A team that starts slowly may face days of pressure before its next game. A manager may have to answer the same question repeatedly. A star player may become the center of a national debate. The schedule controls how long that pressure lasts. A quick turnaround can be useful because it gives a team less time to panic. It can also be brutal because there is less time to fix the problem. A longer break can allow recovery and tactical work. It can also allow criticism to grow. This is why schedule strength is not only physical, it is psychological. The best route is not always the one with the easiest opponents. It may be the one that gives a team the right rhythm, enough rest to recover, enough time to prepare, not so much dead space that pressure becomes a storm, and not so much travel that the tournament feels like survival before the match even begins. The 12th factor is tactical preparation. At a World Cup, managers have limited training time. They cannot rebuild a team from scratch between matches. They can adjust details, pressing triggers, set-piece plans, defensive assignments, build-up patterns, substitution plans. The schedule decides how much real work can happen. A team with one more clean training day can prepare a specific trap. A team with heavy travel may rely more on meetings and recovery. That difference matters most against opponents with unusual styles. This is where the expanded field becomes dangerous for favorites. A top nation may face a team that defends in a way it rarely sees, or attacks with a directness that forces uncomfortable decisions. With enough preparation time, the favorite can solve the puzzle. With a compressed schedule, the match becomes less predictable. The schedule does not create the tactical problem, but it can reduce the time available to solve it. Set pieces are part of this too. In tight tournament matches, corners and free kicks can decide everything. But set-piece preparation takes repetition. It takes clear roles. It takes players who are fresh enough to attack the ball and defend second phases. If the schedule squeezes preparation time, the details can suffer. If a team has a cleaner week, it may find an edge in the least glamorous part of the game. That edge can become a quarterfinal goal or the difference between surviving and going home. So how should fans read the 2026 schedule? Not by looking only for the biggest matchups. Look for sequences. Look for travel clusters. Look for teams that play in very different conditions across a short period. Look for contenders who may have to choose between resting stars and winning the group. Look for possible knockout routes where one side arrives after 90 minutes and another arrives after extra time. Look for the teams whose style depends most on freshness. The schedule is not one variable, it is a chain of variables. This is why a favorite can be strong and still vulnerable. A team may have the better squad, the better recent record, and the better tactical structure. But if it is forced into awkward travel, short rest, high heat, extra time, and a difficult stylistic matchup, its advantage can shrink. The schedule creates the conditions in which quality has to operate. Sometimes quality is enough anyway. Sometimes the conditions drag the match into a place where the underdog can survive. The honest conclusion is that the 2026 World Cup schedule will not replace football. It will reveal which teams can manage football under pressure. The champion will still need goals, saves, defensive concentration, and moments of courage. But it may also need the best recovery plan, the deepest rotation, the clearest travel operation, and the calmest response to a route that keeps changing. So when the fixtures are discussed, do not treat them as background information. They are part of the story. The schedule can decide who arrives fresh, who arrives stretched, who gets rhythm, who loses it, who can press, who has to sit deeper, who can rotate, and who is forced to gamble. In 2026, the World Cup will not only be a test of who plays the best football, it will be a test of who can keep playing their football when the tournament itself starts pushing back. There is also a fairness question. A global tournament can never give every team exactly the same experience. Some groups will feel smoother, some routes will feel harsher. Some teams will get a sequence that suits their style, while others will be asked to solve very different problems in quick succession. That does not make the tournament unfair by itself. Every World Cup has unequal paths. But 2026 makes those differences more visible because the scale is bigger. If a contender has to cross regions, manage a punishing rest window, then face a fresh opponent with a simpler route, the conversation after the match may focus on tactics or mentality. The deeper story may be that the schedule created two very different versions of the same fixture. This is why analysts should be careful with simple explanations. If a favorite loses late, it is easy to say it lacked desire. If a team presses less than usual, it is easy to say the manager was cautious. If a star player looks flat, it is easy to say the pressure got to him. Sometimes those things are true, but sometimes the body tells the story before the tactics do. A tired team can look nervous. A disrupted team can look poorly coached. A side protecting players from fatigue can look passive. The schedule can disguise itself as a football problem. The medical departments may become some of the most important people at the tournament. Their work will rarely be the headline, but they will shape availability. They will decide how much training a player can take, whether a small problem becomes a major absence, and whether a squad can keep enough legs for the knockout rounds. Recovery rooms, sleep plans, hydration, nutrition, soft tissue management, and travel protocols may sound less dramatic than a last-minute winner, but they help decide who is still capable of producing that winner in July. There is one more layer, the emotional rhythm of survival. A team that wins comfortably can breathe. A team that survives through chaos may carry adrenaline into the next match, but adrenaline is not the same as recovery. Penalties, late goals, controversial decisions, and desperate defending can drain a squad even when the result is positive. In a long tournament, emotional recovery matters. The schedule decides how much space a team has to process what just happened before it has to do it again. That is why the best teams will treat the schedule like an opponent from day one. They will plan rotation before rotation feels necessary. They will map travel before the route is confirmed. They will prepare for different climates, different kickoff rhythms, and different recovery windows. They will try to win matches without spending more energy than needed. And when the tournament becomes chaotic, the teams that have already planned for chaos may look calmer than everyone else. And that is why the schedule conversation should start before the first whistle. When the draw is made, the immediate reaction will be about opponents. But the smarter question will be about the whole chain around those opponents. How many days separate the matches? How much movement sits between them? Does the route reward rhythm or force constant reset? Does a team have room to rotate, or does every fixture demand the strongest 11? The answers may not feel dramatic in December, but by the knockout rounds, they can become the difference between a team that looks sharp and a team that looks strangely flat. For viewers, that makes the 2026 World Cup more interesting, not less. The schedule gives the tournament a second layer. You can watch the match, but also watch the route. You can ask whether a team is improving or simply benefiting from rhythm. You can ask whether another team is declining or just paying the cost of its path. The champion will still have to win on the pitch, but the path to that pitch may decide how much of its best football is still available when the biggest moments arrive.